This is All Sports All the Time. I'm your host, Owen Lapp. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, the Senior Director at Make Plays Media, Jeremy Meyer. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You basically have the job that I would like to have, so I'm super intrigued to just basically learn about you and your career. So let's start just at college. Did my research on you, of course. Not too stalkery, but learned some stuff. You went to the University of Iowa, got your bachelor's in journalism and sports studies. How in your college decision-making process did you decide that sports media was what you wanted to do?
So to back up a little bit, growing up, I had an older brother, and we would, like all, sports siblings would do, we would, lock horns in various sports, whether it was wiffle ball outside or basketball on a Nerf hoop in my room or, knee hockey downstairs in the basement. And because he was the older brother, he was the referee and the umpire and the rules expert, and I had to be the broadcaster, was kind of how we kind of doled out responsibility. So sports media, you could say, has been natural for me ever since those early days. And I ended up at Iowa. I grew up outside Boston. And when I was a freshman, believe it or not, I was in my freshman dorm in the bathroom. And I saw that there was a flyer on the wall for the student radio station. And I had no idea where my passion was going to take me. One of my big concerns when I got on campus was just to make sure that there were people who loved sports as much as I did. So picking a Big Ten school was pretty sure that was going to happen. So I joined the student radio station really that first semester, first couple of weeks on campus. And I learned that not only could you broadcast shows on the radio, talk shows that you could host and participate in, kind of like Around the Horn. It's called Sports Squawk. Or on the weekends, they had the rights to student broadcast Iowa football. So I was a kid in a candy store. I mean, I remember covering Iowa basketball from press row that winter, and I don't think my feet touched the ground that first half, a game against Howard, if I remember correctly. So Iowa was a great place for me because it gave me every resource to ask questions in press conferences, interview coaches, interview players, broadcast Big Ten championship, a Rose Bowl, an Outback Bowl, all sorts of opportunities. So it kind of started in the backyard, and then from there, it just had a mind of its own and took off.
Yeah, looking at all of your stuff back from college, it seems like you were all over the place. You did all sorts of things. What was your biggest takeaway from all of those experiences that you had?
I think if you say yes to things, more opportunities are going to present themselves. I remember as a sophomore, I got a phone call after class on a Wednesday or Thursday, and they said, "Hey, we need someone to broadcast the Iowa volleyball." I had never even seen a volleyball match, let alone broadcasted one. And there I was that Friday night in Carver Hawkeye Arena calling Iowa volleyball. And that semester I was traveling all over the Big Ten with this team and trying to learn on the fly. So I think just opening myself up to different opportunities and knowing that I was going to put my whole self into it, I was able to really hit the ground running. And I had a lot of incredible experiences, met some really cool people. And I know that my college experience set me up to what I'm doing here professionally.
What did you surprise yourself most with what you said yes to?
There were some PA announcing opportunities on campus. So PA announcing for field hockey and for soccer, I think was a little bit different. They wanted me to do a swim meet, but I looked up that swim meets are probably 5 hours long. So I didn't know that one was going to make the cut. But I think just all experiences in front of a microphone, doing broadcasting, because that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then I had an internship with the Albany Dutchman of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League going into my senior year. And that was an incredible experience. It's a league designed for the players to learn about professional life. So it's 50 games in 55 days. You're constantly on the bus. You're, grinding in kind of a minor league environment. And while I really enjoyed the experience, I really enjoyed the team, I didn't know I wanted to be doing that after I graduated. So it kind of taught me what else could be out there. I kind of would look ahead to other opportunities, other options. And my senior year, I landed at a student TV station, the Daily Iowan TV, and anchoring there and producing there kind of opened up myself to another world, which is closely aligned to MLB Network, where I ended up after school, and what I'm doing now with Make Plays.
Perfect transition. After college, how did you end up getting that job with the MLB Network?
So one of the first pieces of advice that I give to students is to build relationships with your professors while you can, because I graduated, I didn't have a landing spot yet. And it was graduation weekend, I believe, actually. And one of my professors noticed and, asked and learned that I was about to become a free agent. So he knew someone who got me an interview. And I think it just goes to show that A, your professors can be incredibly connected wherever you are. But B, if you work really hard, it's only going to open doors for you. I think his class was media law. It wasn't sports related. It was something just for the major. But by sitting in some of those early rows and going to office hours and applying myself, he took a note of me and of my work ethic. And that's how I got my foot in the door.
What was that interview like? You're out of college and you're already MLB Network's pretty big deal.
Yeah, so I took the train down. So I grew up outside Boston. So moved back to Boston after graduating, took the train down, and then in Manhattan, found my way to Secaucus, where MLB Network is. And it was really great. And I thought it was important to be face-to-face. It was pre-COVID, so I can't remember if there was even an option to do it virtually. But just being able to express my interest in learning, in growing, in saying yes to as many different opportunities as I could, I was able to start there, and it was a really great experience for me.
Yeah, you had a lot of success there, clearly. Probably, I'm guessing your biggest accolade, you won an Emmy, which is so cool. MLB Tonight won the Outstanding Daily Studio Show, and you were an associate producer, so therefore you won an Emmy. What did that mean to you?
I think it was the culmination of a lot of hard work. A daily show is a grind, whether it's what we're doing now at Make Plays or at a big company like MLB Network that also runs the NHL Network. You are constantly up against deadline. You are constantly looking for inspiration, for creativity, for ideas. You're trying to make really great content. And I think that award is absolutely a team award. There's so many departments that go into putting a great show on the air, and to do it consistently and to be noticed and to be in the front of people's minds in the sports world is a huge challenge. I mean, there's so many different options for people to go where they want their content. And for us to be recognized as the best in the industry, I think it just goes back to team and working with really great, passionate people who give everything they have to putting great content on the air.
What was your personal role with the show as an associate producer?
So the way it worked was that if you worked on an MLB Tonight at all during the year, then you were able to earn an Emmy. I was actually lucky enough to win 2 of them. So they're actually kind of different stories. The first one, me being a little bit on the lower level of things, being a highlight editor, being someone who was putting together all sorts of VOs and SOTs and in bumps and out bumps and a lot of technical editing work. I think for the second one, it was more a story of growth. It was a story of working with on-air talent producing their breakdowns, maybe producing a segment or two, depending on, what the show required. So it was a little more FaceTime with people who are actually on air. I think they both go back to just commitment and hard work of an entire team, but what I was doing for each of them are just a little bit different.
Do you feel a little bit more proud of the second one since you were like a little higher ranking?
I think they're both really cool. I think just being able to have that experience. I'm not a big external, medals guy. I love the fact that I've got these trophies. I think it's really, really cool. But I think it's even cooler to think about the growth and the journey that got to that point.
How do you think you grew the most at MLB Network?
It's a good question. I think I got better at what I was doing, fortunately. You can't continue without, understanding a learning curve and putting a lot into it. I think working with really good people and brilliant TV people on a day-to-day basis, you can only soak up that information like a sponge. So I think for me, figuring out what works and what people pay attention to and what people care about is also, that corollary of what doesn't work and what people tune away from. And thinking about troubleshooting is a big thing, right? Understanding that any given broadcast, something's going to go wrong. And instead of adjusting when it does, it is that preemptive. It's being detail oriented. It's being really thorough in what we're doing from a technical standpoint to understand that when something does go wrong, learning how to fix it. I think when you're in a control room, as often as I was in that experience, you learn to adapt, you learn to adjust, you learn to be flexible. And I think that idea suits people really well, thinking about whatever career they're in, not just sports television.
Yeah, definitely. You need problem solving in all areas. So you were at MLB Network for 6 years, and then you made the transition to Make Plays. How did you make that transition?
So I really enjoyed my time at MLB Network. I learned a lot, but I was ready to make a change. I was also ready to make a city change. So the city change came first, and I became a free agent. And I linked up with Make Plays Media a couple months later because it was being started by some of my former colleagues. So it's kind of a similar story going back to how I got my interview at MLB, right? It was a professor who took an interest, took note of my hard work. Mark Weiner, who's an executive producer here, was somebody I had a great relationship with at MLB Network. And he approached me about this company that he and Scott Braun were starting together, and being able to lean on the trust and the chemistry that we have working in a control room and putting shows on air and doing things in a really hectic and really kind of cutting edge, exciting environment. When I knew they were getting together, that was, I knew this was a place I wanted to be. And knowing that Claudia Olson, who's our producer, was coming aboard as well, somebody who I worked with in production at MLB Network and also have a fantastic relationship with. It was all these really great people that I've worked really hard with before. And to know that they were building something really cool and really different, this was, as I said, an easy decision to come aboard.
What's a specific memory you have with Mark or Claudia from MLB Network?
So one of the things that I did as an associate producer is I tape produced EVS. EVS is, think about any replay. So if you watch MLB Tonight, the reason why they can show a home run in San Francisco and a home run in Tampa Bay right after the fact is because you have EVS operators who have little boxes and a circular dial, and they can spin back the game and clip it and then show that clip as live on an MLB Tonight. So Mark would be a coordinating producer for a lot of these shows, and I would be the person in EVS. Depending on the kind of show, as a tape producer, not as the operator, but as the tape producer working with the operators, I sometimes am the one telling the producer, the coordinating producer, and the director where we're going next, right? If there are runs all across the board, you have to kind of dictate to them. So in some ways, I was producing. As I grew and got the chance to produce a couple of shows there, Mark was a coordinating producer for me. So I think, again, just being in the control room together, understanding what he knows and learning what he knows about how to put really great TV together, I think is a general memory more than anything specific. But he was just somebody that I really enjoyed working with. His attention to detail, his way that he approaches his shows, but also who he is as a person. The fact that no moment is ever, too big. He's always calm. He's always composed. That's the kind of person I want to be in hectic situations.
What's the most hectic situation you've had so far with make plays?
I think going back to troubleshooting, right? So just understanding that something's going to go wrong. And when that happens, it's important to work together and try to solve things. Sometimes, I think about it like a basketball player in some ways. Sometimes you're going to have to dribble and shoot with your left hand until you can figure out how your right hand is ready to get back into things. And that's totally okay. It's kind of the nature of the beast a little bit when you're working in the kind of environment we are. We have really good people that work together, but it's just, it's vital to have that when you know that something's going to go really wrong. I don't want to go into greater detail because I don't want people at home to be looking and saying, oh, I can tell something's not quite right. Just know that we always try to put the best product we can on air at all times. And if something's going on that prevents us from doing that, it's really a puzzle and problem solving very, very quickly how we can get back to putting what we want in front of everybody.
That's fair. People don't need to necessarily know.
Don't want to know how the
sausage got made,
right? Yeah,
nailed that. Nice. Yeah, that's fair. I did. I would help with like the multimedia at my church back home, and that when the people are there, like in church, and something's going wrong, and that's not a great feeling. So I get that. With Make Plays Media and Foul Territory, all the shows, what purpose do you think the company serves in the sports media landscape?
I think we are a place where people and players can come and be themselves. We want to be the place where ball players and reporters to an extent, but mostly, current players can come and can share what they're really thinking, how they're really feeling. We want our host, Scott, and our former player hosts to be able to have conversations that go beyond just baseball. We're really not the place to think about, your swing on a 3-2 pitch in the fourth inning of a game in May. We're more thinking big picture. What's going on off the field? What is going on in the clubhouse? We want to give people at home the access that other people and other networks just don't have. And for us, building those relationships and having those real conversations is, I think, where we fit in and fit in differently than what else is out there.
Why is that important?
Because I think as a fan, you're connected to something greater than yourself, and you want that access. I grew up in Boston. I'm a big Red Sox fan, and I want to be able to know what is the manager thinking, what is the team thinking, how can we as a community, right? I'm not going to say as a Red Sox Nation, but as a community, can we have a winning product on the field and something that people want to go see? I go back to the fact that there's so many different places to consume sports. There's also so many different things to watch out there. And I think as a fan, when you're invested, you want to know what's actually going on. And I think Foul Territory, Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal, Legends Territory that goes and talks to players that have already retired and thinking about kind of the past. But in a similar lens, you're able to find out what's actually going on with real conversations, real personalities, real people in a way that other places just don't do it.
That was a great answer. How has working for Make Plays Media compared to working with MLB Network?
It's different. And I think that experience was great in understanding what a TV network, linear TV network is like. I think what's really different and unique and fun about this experience is that we're on the cutting edge. So being a startup company, you're always thinking about where you can get that edge, how you can do things a little bit differently. Just this week, so we launched March 1st, our first show. Just this week, I think we did something with our cameras that we haven't done before, because we're constantly thinking about ways that we can shoot the show better, and we're thinking about ways that we can kind of capture, whether it's for social media, different platforms, a better product. So I think constantly questioning, but in a really healthy way, and going back to that hardworking, dedicated, creative group that we have. And it's not just the four of us. It's also, our interns. It's our social media people, building something that's really cool and constantly tweaking and constantly trying things is very exciting to me.
What are you most proud of so far?
I think that we are disruptors is what I'm most proud of in a good way. I think for a long time in baseball, there was this assumption that it had to be broadcasted or packaged to fans in one way. And I'm really proud of the fact whenever I see our name picked up on different publications, people are watching our stuff. I think about the just extreme amount of hard work that it goes into putting a show on the air. And at MLB, it was a lot of departments. For us, it's a few people doing a lot of different roles. So whenever I see that somebody quotes us and quotes us positively, I think about a Dave Roberts situation earlier this year when he was asked in a press conference about one of his, I think it was Max Muncy, about Max's status for a game. And he said one thing, and people out there said, actually, Max was on foul territory, and he said it was something else. And then Roberts had to correct himself. I think that is a representation of how we're getting real interviews, we're getting tangible, hard information that people really want, and we're being noticed. And I think being noticed and being noticed positively is something that I'm really proud of, because I know just how hard I'm working and how hard our whole team is working.
Yeah, speaking of that hard work, what is exactly your personal day-to-day with the company?
So there's no 2 days that are alike. I think it depends on the day of the week. It depends on what I'm doing. For Foul Territory, I am the primary show director. So I am cutting cameras. I am technically directing. I am the graphics person. I am the audio person, all at once. And that's an exciting challenge to have every day. I also produce Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. I produce Legends Territory, and I post-produce those shows too. So not just taping or doing them live, but I'm also editing them on the back end and then posting them and getting content ready for different outlets. I do the same thing with Brew Crew Territory, or Brewer's Show. And just kind of every day is a little bit different, but generally, I'm kind of doing at least one of those shows at once, if not multiple shows at once.
What's your favorite part of all of it?
Our guys just have really great conversations, and it may sound corny, but I really love when a guest comes on that maybe has heard of us, but maybe it's their first time, and they get to just, like, you see like a deep breath, and you can see that, okay, whether I'm talking to AJ Brzezinski or Kratz or Todd Frazier, Adam Jones, Lorenzo Cain, Brock Holt, these guys, they get me. And I think you see a really good conversation in a way that, again, other places just don't have. And it makes me really happy to see that the show is great, and the show is funny, and the show is informative, and the show is different and it's new and it's fun. And to see other people pick up on that, and to see our guests, most importantly, pick up on that and want to keep coming back, to me, that's really fun.
What's the best example you have of that? Like just a show moment or conversation that you loved?
I go back to Pete Alonso. So there was a conversation. I can't even remember how we got there, but Todd Frazier was telling a story about how there was a story with the San Diego Padres, and one of the players wasn't available because he had to use the restroom. So the question logically went to, has anybody had to go to the bathroom while playing? Todd gave a couple of stories growing up, and then we segued right into Pete Alonso. It's his first appearance on foul territory, and the question is posed to him, and sure enough, he had to go this year, and talked about how first pitch, he was going to swing wherever it was. If he got on base, he was going to get picked off because he had to go. And sure enough, he hits a home run on the at-bat. And there's video of him that we were able to capture. And Eric Kratz, who was on that interview, was able to recognize which pitch, which at-bat, which game. And it was a viral moment for us because it's just hilarious and it's just real in a way that nobody else would ever ask Pete Alonso if he'd had to go to the bathroom while he was in the batter's box, sort of thing. But because of the chemistry and the camaraderie that we're still building on our show, I felt like he was really able to be himself. And you're talking New York, huge star, a lot of cameras, a lot of access. I feel like we got something there that nobody else had.
Absolutely. That was, I think that was like right before I joined as an intern, because I remember one of my first weeks, it was like, that was the thing everybody was talking about in Slack, is like, oh, it got posted here and here and here. And it was just all over the place. And yeah, I think that interview was great. Like I'm a Phillies fan, so I'm not a huge fan of the Mets at all, but like it made me maybe not like Pete Alonso, but I appreciated him more as a person, like you were saying. Like more
relatable, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was like, okay, Pete Alonso, he's a fun guy. I don't want him to be having success against the Phillies, but yeah, just those conversations are great for fans. And that was a great example.
Yeah.
What is the coolest experience that you've had so far?
I would say our shows at the Borgata are really, really cool experiences. So we've partnered with MGM to have a lot of really great, thoughtful betting content on our shows. And every 2 weeks during the season, we were able to do shows live from the sports book in Atlantic City. And being able to be all together has been really cool for those. We're a remote company. I am based outside DC. We've got studios in Florida and in New Jersey and in Philly. And to be able to get everybody together to put a show on, it's just great to see people that you work really hard with day in, day out. But those shows are fun, and it's great to be together as a group.
What's that difference between, remote and being in person?
I think from a technical perspective, I think about body language. When you're in the same room together, if you're in a control room, you can see when somebody is grinding or when somebody is calm and relaxed and more approachable. I think it's those unwritten, unspoken kind of chemistry moments that are really built when you can be together. But also it's just, from a communicative standpoint, it's just a lot easier. Scott can look at me, Scott can look at Mark can look at me, and vice versa, and just know that we're all on the same page or something else is going on. And one of the great things about a control room that a lot of people may not know is that so long as the guys on set aren't panicked and they don't know, then whatever is happening behind the scenes can happen behind the scenes. And a lot of the times that's the way we want it. So there's going to be a lot of commotion that the people at home or the people in the studio don't know. And to be able to have that nonverbal communication is really important to put a good show on the air.
Yeah, back to how the sausage is made. They don't have to worry about that. No one has to know about that part. It's fine. Yeah. Last question. Thank you again for your time. You've been in my shoes as the college kid in sports media, trying to do all the things and then graduate and get a job. You said at the beginning, one of your biggest pieces of advice was build relationships with professors. Do you have any other advice for the people who are in this season of life?
I think packaging yourself in a way that stands out is really important. So for me, and this was back in 2016, I had a Wix website where I had all of my notes. I had all of my, broadcasting tapes. I had my reel for producing and for anchoring and a couple of class papers as well. It was a one-stop shop, and I used a shortened link on business cards and gave those business cards to people. And, that shortened link went everywhere. And I'd like to hope that helped a little bit. I think being able to stand out is really hard now, but at the same time, you also have more tools at your disposal. A show like this, an opportunity to put content out there organically and to get impressions and to get views is only going to help you in that process. So figuring out how to stand out and be different in a positive way in the landscape, I think for me was just putting everything together and making it really easy for people to find my content.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. This was Jeremy Meyer. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it, Owen.
We will see you guys next week. Don't forget to do just, all the things, like, subscribe, the list, just all of those. And we will see you next time.